Hi there, welcome along to this Checkpoint webinar on controlling the World Wide Web. Taking a few questions at the end, so if you want to type those into the Q&A box and I'll address those at the end. So today is a story of a security manager on a mission. So this is a mission to secure 2.0 web access, and this is based on a true story. This is a real life customer. So let's take a look at that customer. So it's a manufacturing company, approximate 2,000 users across 8 locations, and currently have got 2 Checkpoint UTM-1 3070s in the environment, and a third-party point product solution for the web filtering. So the mission was to control web access. Now, the detail of this requirement was to stop viruses and malicious actions, and to stop access to sites that were lowering productivity, the example, Facebook here. However, Facebook is increasingly used for business. And how can we know what the users really need? So often users are in the best position to know what they actually need. Existing solutions, usually not deployed in line. They can be easily bypassed with direct connect. Things like Dropbox and Skype is another example of that, and they can slow down traffic. Point products also are very expensive. So for this customer, the annual subscription cost for their 2,000 users was over $40,000, and that was after their 35% discount, which is pretty steep in most people's eyes. I think you'd agree. So how do we approach this problem? So is this a mission impossible, or is this a mission possible with Checkpoint? So Checkpoint enables the secure use of Web 2.0 with URL filtering. So we have a constantly updated cloud-based categorization service, so we can categorize the malicious sites so you can swiftly block everything or anything with any malintent. We've got user and user group granularity to restrict or allow access based on your existing granularity in your existing AD infrastructure. And we have enterprise scale performance. So this service and software functionality is available across all our appliances and software, from the SMB or the branch right up to the enterprise or the data center level. The customer was able to maintain the same functionality with Checkpoint as the point product that was already provided. So I'll just explain a little graphic here. You can see a little bit small, but we're able to block spyware and malicious sites and bad sites, but allow access to other categories such as social networking in this example. But we can go further than that. So Checkpoint URL filtering and application control has advanced actions. So we are able, with these advanced actions, we can perform actions such as a bandwidth limitation or limiting access to outside work hours. So again, the example shown here, the engineers only allowed access to media streams outside work hours, and that is also bandwidth throttled as well. So examples of customers using this at the moment, we have them out there that are looking at doing this for the Olympics, for example, to manage the bandwidth for all the media streams during the Olympics time. Now, in certain environments, a proxy is required, and we can absolutely fulfill that requirement. So we can sit either inline or as a proxy, one-arm proxy, if that's required in a deployment, and that's in transparent or indeed a non-transparent mode. So for this security manager, task 1 completed. He's got the same functionality as before, and much more in his toolbox, a lot more options at his disposal. However, blocking Facebook stops the business. Granular control is needed. So marketing and maybe HR maybe need access to Facebook to carry out some business duties. We want to reduce the time wasted of other employees, and Checkpoint can absolutely fulfill that. And how we fulfill that is with the largest application coverage in the industry. So we have about 4,500 applications, 250,000 widgets, and obviously we don't want to be creating a policy to reference all of those. So we drop those into over 130 categories, such as media streaming, as you've seen, or business, so you can deploy a logical and a sensible policy. But at the back of this, the largest application coverage in the industry. So task 2 completed for this security manager. Again, in the graphic, Facebook Games is blocked, and Facebook is allowed in this instance. So people have to be tending their virtual Farmvilles at home, unfortunately, in this one. Task 2 completed with checkpoint. So it's no need to manage 2 separate policies, and that is one of the key unique things about checkpoint in this space at the moment, is that you can manage your URL filtering policy and your application policies as one single unified policy. So the 130 categories that we talked about before, they cover both applications and URLs. The example here, media streams, as I said, would cover URLs and applications on the desktop. And all this is of course, tied into the users and groups from your existing AD infrastructure. Again, going back to the graphic here, the example is the engineers, and they have access to the media streams. However, with all these users, can the security manager know what all these users should or shouldn't be doing? And the answer to that is, of course, no. We need to engage and educate the end users. Now, we've all signed the infamous user agreement policy at the start of every employment, and that's probably in a lot of the cases where user interaction starts and finishes. So, I mean, absolutely, there will be the cases of black and white. Examples of black would be absolutely you should be blocking all spyware and no malicious sites, and conversely, on the white side, then you would obviously be allowing things like Google searches and other search engines. But there's that grey area in the middle, and the IT administrator or help desk haven't got the time to be servicing individual requests for certain users to access certain applications or certain websites. They haven't got the time or the inclination to do that. So that becomes a problem. So how Checkpoint approaches that problem is with user check. So user check is a practical control mechanism that establishes a dialogue with the end user. It engages and educates the end users. So an example here is access to YouTube. So the IT administrator maybe doesn't know whether this user should or should not be accessing YouTube, but with the user check functionality, which presents a dialogue back to the user on certain categorizations of sites, the user gets a soft block page that they can then fill in and justify a business case reason why they need to access YouTube. So I mean, YouTube generally viewed as a non-business application, but examples are like training videos that are on YouTube that are posted up there, and Checkpoint has some training videos on YouTube as well, which I absolutely encourage you to go and have a look at. So the user fills in and justifies what they're doing and why they're doing it, and that of course is then fully audited at the back end. That's how we engage with end users. The customer in question was able to save over 65% with Checkpoint's web control technology. So before we had an annual $40,000 and upwards renewal, and this is what the customer purchased with Checkpoint. So this is Checkpoint's web control package and one for high availability, and a Smart 5 appliance for the Smart Event and Smart Reporter at the back of that. The first year cost $13,170, and second year costs would obviously be lower than that without the hardware purchase. So saving 65% is pretty good, especially in these economic times. So Checkpoint enables the secure use of Web 2.0. This is a consolidated security message. And by consolidating services onto Checkpoint gateways, not only does this customer benefit from centralized management, centralized logging, and centralized reporting across all the blades of firewall, application, URL filtering, they have a lower total cost of ownership with the solution, and they have a lower initial capital cost as well, which is a pretty engaging message. So Checkpoint has the largest application coverage in the industry, which is always up to date on the customer's gateways because of our cloud categorization service. It's a unified policy and therefore a simplified policy control, and all this is delivered to the end user with practical and meaningful enforcement that involves the end user in the decisions. So, mission accomplished. This is what the customer purchased. Two times web control software packages and a smart event appliance for logging and reporting. And these are a couple of the customer quotes that came out off this. So love the granularity. We can now allow Facebook. Costs are down, performance is up. And we now have a consolidated, detailed view of sites visited and applications used. And often having detailed visibility into the traffic is often half the battle. So that is the snapshot of how Checkpoint was able to help this customer increase the security, lower the total cost of ownership with Checkpoint technology and Checkpoint web control. So, very short one today. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but thank you very much. And if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box at the side, and I'll work to answer those for any questions for you. Okay, question. Sorry, the question is it possible to generate granular reports on the sites users have visited? Yes, absolutely. This is exactly what the customer purchased the Smart 1.5 event appliance for, and they can generate the reports on pretty much anything they want, really. Reports on bandwidth, high-risk applications, top block users, top categories, etc. And this is all done over a user-defined schedule, so a 1 week, 30 days, 3 months. And a scheduled timed report can be produced and emailed out, obviously, at the end of that to a nominated person. Okay, question. Our existing solution often miscategorizes websites. How would Checkpoint work around this with how would this work with the Checkpoint solution? So first of all, Checkpoint classifies it into multiple categories. So we don't rely on just one category or label like other vendors can do, which helps to mitigate that problem. We also have sets of uncategorized actions. So websites or applications that aren't actually categorized, then we have a number of actions that we can perform on that, and that is user definable. We also have custom categories. Obviously, the customer can define white or black lists for certain URLs or internal resources. They can absolutely do that. And the risk categories that we assign to applications can be reclassified. An example of that, so VNC, for example, remote control, a piece of software, it can be viewed as quite a high-risk application because of its data loss potential, that sort of thing. But if that's used extensively in your organization for, say, remote support, then the customer can lower the risk category on that. So that then would not show up in sort of high-risk applications. Another question here. When we ask users in the policy, what happens to their responses? So one of the, what we're talking about here is one of the actions that you can take instead of just allow or block. You can use the ask user, which is what the user check, the grey area that we're talking about is all about. What happens to their responses? So those responses that people put in there to justify business case reasons for accessing sites like YouTube can be, they're all fully audited and they drop back into the logging and reporting system and can be fully logged and reported on from there. Okay, so no other questions coming through apart from those. So just want to thank you again for your time today. And if we can be any assistance, then please do get in contact with us. Thank you very much. See you later.